And welcome once again to the PTZ, the Political Twilight Zone. I'm John Baldwin, and I'm here with Morgan Brittany.
Hello, hello.
Well, we talked about 6 weeks ago, and we thought, I figured we'd still be talking about the coronavirus or coming out of the lockdowns and everything, but no, the world has changed once again since we've talked.
Yeah.
This is just crazy what's been going on. It started with the George Floyd murder by the cops, and then it's just ignited a firestorm. Has ignited a firestorm of riots and looting across the country, and you're out there in L.A. Pretty much in the middle of it. Tell us how things are in your neighborhood.
Well, I'll tell you, I lived through the riots of '92 up here, and the riots in the '60s, and I got to tell you, it is very, very different, very frightening in a different way. There's no rhyme or reason to this. Because so many of these people that are protesting, not a lot of the protesters, but there are elements of the protesters that don't even know who George Floyd even is, and they don't care. All they have found is that this is an opportunity for them to create chaos. This gave them the spark to start all of this. And what's happening around my area and up north a little bit is that caravans of cars are driving around neighborhoods, and anyone who has an American flag in their, out in front of their house, they set it afire and hope it burns the house down. There was a woman, I think, up north of me, and she said that her house, they started the flag, and the wind blew it toward her house, and fortunately she got it put out. I guess the neighbors helped her or something, but they're planning on doing that anytime they see an American flag, not a Confederate flag, but an American flag. And if it's in front of the house, they will burn it. So, we've come to, it's just craziness out here. They're still looting. They're still cruising the streets. Crime went up, if you can believe this. The past couple of weeks, it's gone up 200%.
Wow.
In Los Angeles. So that just tells you something, and it's very, very scary here because, it's a liberal hotbed, and so that's where I live.
Yeah, I just heard today that Antifa has taken over a couple of city blocks in Seattle. That's crazy.
Yeah, they took over 6 blocks, and they've got, it's barricaded, and they've got armed guards not allowing people in there. People live in there. Their homes are there. And, I don't know what these people plan on doing. They also, I think, in it's either Seattle or Portland, they took over another police precinct, and the police abandoned it. I mean, what is going on here? I don't understand.
Yeah, the police need to. Well, if a stand is not made at some point, these people are just going to take over. If the police aren't going to do it, the National Guard or the military is going to have to come in there and take a stand and disperse them, get them out of those areas.
Well, a lot of things. I've been seeing things around California in the red districts, right? Mm-hmm. In the conservative Republican districts, which are kind of out on the outskirts. They're not on the coast here. But I've been seeing people standing up in front of their property, and when these Antifa or radicals show up to loot or destroy their stores or their restaurants or anything, or their homes, these people stand out in front and just tell them, get off, get out of my sight, get off my property. They don't threaten them with, guns or anything. They're just taking a stand. And most of the time, these little snowflake kids run away. Mm. So it really does take people to stand up and defend themselves against this. Because a lot of these people are just following following orders from somebody.
Exactly.
They're following orders, and they're saying, I want you to go out and harass these people. But so many of the liberals, especially out here, are bowing, and they're showing that on the nightly news, the local news, where the police in L.A. are bowing to Black Lives Matter. They're lying prostrate on the ground with their hands behind them, police, and saying that they're in solidarity with Black Lives Matter. And I'm thinking, am I losing my mind here?
Wow.
So there's no pushback in California. None.
And there's none in Minneapolis. I was watching a video that somebody had posted on Instagram last night of somebody, they were just driving through the downtown area of Minneapolis, and it almost brings tears to your eyes. It's like watching some bombed out area of the Middle East.
Yeah, I know.
And some buildings were still on fire.
Mm-hmm.
You had mentioned to me a few days ago something interesting that you caught when you were watching the news reports, that some of these people had earwigs in their ear, and they were obviously taking orders from somebody.
Yeah, there was my husband spied it when he was watching a video clip on the news, and he said, "What the heck?" He said, "Those guys are talking to somebody back and forth." They had because he works on set, he works on movie sets, and they wear those things to get communication with the director if they're far away. These guys were doing the same thing. So they're taking orders from somebody, like where to go, where to set up, what to hit, where the police are, where the police are not, and they know where to go. And they're communicating this with people. So this is a well-funded, well-organized bunch of people.
Right.
And this has got to stop. It's got to stop.
Well, we've seen this before. I mean, when the stuff happened in Ferguson several years ago, the first protests were peaceful. There was no problem. Then by the second night, though, these people are either bussed in or flown in or whatever, and the rioters completely take over. Most of them do not live in those neighborhoods that they're destroying.
No, you're right, 100%. And I even have, I have videos that people have sent me where they've taken on their cell phones pictures of people unloading bricks on the sidewalks in Sherman Oaks and Encino area, Ventura Boulevard in the San Fernando Valley, so that they can be used to throw into the windows. I mean, this is crazy.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I read that kind of made me chuckle was that Antifa was going to hold a protest / riot somewhere in California, and they got a note from the Hells Angels saying that they would be there to meet them. So they decided to cancel that little protest.
Yes, I think that was Ukaipa, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Jack saw that too, and he said, "Oh, this is going to be fun," because of course they're not going to show up. There's no way they're going to show up. They're so outnumbered, and I mean, it's just unbelievable. But that's what I mean, seriously, those guys don't agree with this kind of stuff. The only problem is you got to keep a lid on it so that they don't lose control. You know what I mean? That's the whole problem, because these people are provoking people to get violence so that they can get all the media onto a conservative or Republican or somebody who gets violent, and does something.
Right. Yeah, and I'm no fan of the Hells Angels. They were, I read a book and did an article for Politics several months ago on the 50th anniversary of the infamous Altamont concert where they killed a black man. Hells Angels did. They were hired as security by the Grateful Dead for that concert, and just mayhem ruled. And that single event pretty much destroyed the entire myth of the free love 60s. So, but I just thought that I had to chuckle at that. That would be like Antifa wanting to go somewhere and Chuck Norris saying he might just happen to stroll by.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I know. It's but you think about this. They wear, their faces are all covered with black hoods and masks, not for the disease, not for the virus, but, they hide behind all this stuff.
Right.
And they're just like juvenile delinquent kids, most of them. And, they're doing, that's why I don't see, why is no one standing up to these people?
Well, I think a lot of people don't see this as being orchestrated. They think these are actual people who are rioting because they're really angry and know what they're doing, and they think that they're professional. I don't know. Professional is probably not the right word. Maybe they think that they're more dangerous than they are. But like you said, if somebody can stand out in their yard and say, get out of here, and that is enough to dispel them, then, we need to stop being so scared of these people.
That's right, because what they're doing is they're creating, this whole thing, John, has just been, it's since February, this whole thing has been orchestrated to make us live in fear.
Right.
The whole thing, from the virus that's going to kill you, from, don't go out because the riots, people are going to loot, one thing after another, so people won't leave their houses, they'll cower in fear, and they won't fight back. And that, I think, that's their mantra. Scare people into submission. If you're afraid of something, you're going to do what you can to save yourself or your property. I mean, it's crazy to me.
Well, and the other thing, you mentioned the coronavirus. Aren't these rioters completely doing the opposite of what we've been told for 3 months? We're supposed to all stay inside. They're all together. They're not wearing, some of them are wearing masks, but they're not social distancing.
Yeah. I was so happy today when President Trump said that he's going to start his rallies again.
Good.
Because that's all I've heard from people is, what are there people that are given benefits and then people who are kept in prison? What is the deal here? You've got all these people out protesting in the streets, shoulder to shoulder, spitting on each other, screaming at each other, doing whatever it is they're doing, and then you can't go to church because it's more than 10 people? I mean, this is ridiculous. So that kind of blew that out of the water.
Yeah.
And now I'm so glad to hear that he's going to do his, his big events again. I think he scheduled one pretty soon, actually.
Yeah.
Because there's no argument. How can you say, no, you people have to stay home under lockdown and do as you're told, but yet if you're a protester, no, you can go out and do whatever you want.
Right.
You don't have to wear a mask. You don't have to social distance. You don't have to do anything. You don't even have to pay for anything. Just take it. I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
That's why all of us are like, I'm not doing this anymore. No. It's ridiculous.
The left will take whatever side they think will damage Trump. I mean, so
sure.
If they thought that everybody being in the same place and would hurt Trump, they do that. If they thought the social distancing would hurt him, they do that, which they've done. Well, along with the riots, and this is kind of a logical progression, I guess, in a way. Of course, trying to figure out logic and the left is like an oxymoron. But anyway,
yeah, really.
defunding the police is the next, or abolishing the police, as they're thinking about doing in Minneapolis, is the next issue. Let's put it this way. If you're listening to this and you think that defunding or demolishing the police is a good idea, I want you to listen to me, because if they do that, it could easily come to your city. And if there are no police there, at some point you're going to need the police to protect you in your life, or for some reason, whatever. If they're not there, then you're screwed. And I don't think people are thinking this through. And I know most of this is happening in blue states, but even liberals need police occasionally. And it makes me shudder to think that they were actually going down this road.
Well, the liberals are the first ones to call the police if they don't have security already, right?
That is a good point.
Out here in Hollywood, all these celebrities are yelling to defund the police and let all the prisoners out of prison. Well, why the heck not? They've got security guards at their houses. They live behind gated fences. They've got a 24-hour protection for their children when they go to school. I mean, seriously, what do they care if there's no police? So that's the thing. It's the people that are going to get hurt in this if they defund the police or if they abolish the police departments.
Right.
Are the people that need them the most. And when you actually talk to people in the areas that they live in crime-ridden areas, they relish that the police come. They love it when they're there because they know that they're going to help them. What do you do when you're living in South Central LA and somebody's doing drive-by shootings or, trying to kill somebody in your front yard? Who are you going to call? I mean, seriously.
Not the Ghostbusters.
Not the Ghostbusters, right? Yeah. No, but I'm seriously. They're not thinking this through. They're not understanding that in every single business, in every single situation, there are great people in the majority. Mm-hmm. There are a few people that are sketchy, that are bad, that are not good people. Okay, we get that. But you can't just throw everything out just because of some bad guys that you can literally get rid of. You can fire them. You can make sure they don't work in another police department again. But you don't just throw everything. They don't understand. The police come when there's abuse to a woman being beaten in the home, a child that's being abused, child trafficking. These guys break the doors down to release children that are being sex trafficked. Do they not understand that there will be no one there to save these people? When somebody has a heart attack, they call the police first. Then 911 gets an ambulance there. When there's a fire, there's always backup by police. They don't understand what they're doing. If
right.
there's a bomb, if there's a guy sitting in a car with a bomb in Times Square, there's a policeman who might see it on horseback and stop it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's no rhyme or reason for this. This is a knee-jerk thing by the radicals that want to abolish everything because they want it to burn down. They want it all to crash. That's their goal.
Yeah. And where are the feminists? You mentioned about women that would need the police if they're being abused in their home. Where are the feminists on this? You think that this would be a ready-made issue for them to oppose defunding the police?
You bet. Listen, they took one of the cop shows off the air. You know that TV show, that reality show called Cops? They just yanked it off the air. It's been on for 13 years, 14 years. The majority of that shows the police going in on what they face every day. That's why they took it off the air, because it shows people what they really have to deal with every day. And you're right. Many, many, many times you'll watch that show and you'll see a call that comes in from a woman who's saying, he's going to kill me. You've got to get here. And they'll have to deal with this. A woman who's been thrown into a wall or something, and they save her from that. Well, what are you going to do? You're right. Where are the feminists? Where are they standing up for women for this? And children, where are the child advocates?
Yeah. And and of course the media won't tell you this, but like you mentioned too, in the inner city, it hurts blacks at the largest proportion because there's no police there.
Exponentially more.
Yeah. But the media doesn't care because they live in their gated communities too. They're puppets anyway. All they do is read what's presented to them. And I think one of the contributions that Rush Limbaugh has made to the news cycle is when he plays all the montage of all of them saying the exact same phrase. It could not be a coincidence. Mm-hmm. Just like a couple weeks ago, when they were all saying grim milestone, for the
Yes,
coronavirus.
right, exactly.
So, well, and so far, I read some stuff yesterday. Even the Democrats realize what a losing issue defunding the police is, because at least at this point, both Pelosi and Biden are coming out, and Schumer are coming out against defunding the police. Even Bernie Sanders came out against it. So they realize right now it's a political loser. Now, if they thought they could benefit from it, they'd be all for it.
I think they're realizing that their constituents out there do not want to defund the police. They don't. I mean, I think what was the latest poll? Did you see the latest poll on how many people, when asked the question, I think it was like 65 or 70% said no, don't defund the police.
Wow. And it's probably higher than that. A lot of people are probably afraid to say what they really feel.
Yeah, I mean, it's maybe they're getting the phone calls in their offices saying, you better not. You better not do that.
Yeah.
I mean, Los Angeles is kind of a lost cause. They're talking about taking $150 million away. Look at New York. What are they talking about? Taking $1 billion away? Yeah. I know a lot of these guys. They work movie sets, and I talk to a lot of these guys, and they don't make a lot of money. They don't make tons of money. They're always there for you. They run interference, and they're good people. They're good people. And they hate it when they're being talked down to. And like in New York, those kids were throwing frozen water bottles at their heads, and de Blasio tells them to walk away and don't do anything. You know what should have happened when that happened last year? Those cops should have taken those kids and literally hauled them into jail, even though there's no bail, so they would have been let out. But just to make a point and say, we're not afraid of you.
Or they could just, while they go on the way to jail, just kind of run them through de Blasio's office, too. And, let him look at them.
Yeah, I know.
I had another question. It's a rhetorical question. I think of these things, all these buildings are burning and, it's contributing to global warming. Where are the environmentalists? I mean, where is Al Gore during all this condemning this wanton fires, destruction by fire?
Yeah, he's hiding in his bunker somewhere. Yeah, notice how that kind of is no longer relevant, or they're just not talking about that right now, are they? All the fires and all the damage and all the garbage and oh my gosh.
Because I remember them specifically criticizing George W. Bush for the Iraq War and all the fires it was causing and how it was contributing to global warming. So, where their voice is all of a sudden they, cats got their tongue. They can't seem to get the words out. Don't do this.
No, exactly. But see, it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit their narrative. So they don't. I don't know. I can live to be 100, and I'll never understand the mentality of liberals and how people become liberals. I don't get it.
Well, along with this, we got the riots, we got the police defunding, abolition. The other thing that's now picking up steam is the destruction of monuments, and the governor of Virginia, Ralph Northam, Mr. Blackface, as we like to call him, because he had the audacity to come out and say the other day that they were going to tear down the Robert E. Lee statue because he had slaves and he was a racist. Well, why don't you go look at your yearbook, fella, before you start complaining about other people.
It's like what is it, Robert Byrd? How many roads and streets and airports and things have been named after Robert Byrd? Are they changing those?
That's an excellent point. I hadn't thought about that. I'm sure they're in the midst. They're right in the middle of discussing that right now.
They are. Absolutely, they are. I'm not going to hold my breath.
and they're renaming Air Force bases. At least they want to. And you had mentioned earlier, and I saw this too on Breitbart. They're now HBO Max is now banned Gone with the Wind. And it's been a long time since I've seen that movie. I'm really not sure what their beef is with Gone with the Wind, or is it because they're slaves in it?
Yeah, it's really really the whole history of the Civil War and the hardship that went through. And actually, Gone with the Wind shows how, they want to show the negative. Believe me, I've seen that movie a gazillion times.
Mm-hmm.
The relationship between Mammy and Scarlett was one of mothering and love, and it showed that. And when her little daughter, dies, Mammy is there, and I mean it's so touching. And Hattie McDaniel, who played Mammy, won an Academy Award for that. She's the first black woman to win an Oscar, and she was so honored and thrilled that she could do that, and she loved portraying that character. That's history. It's not. I mean, I don't understand what they're trying to do. Are they going to take the Ten Commandments? Is that the next movie to go?
Probably.
Or the Passion of the Christ, is that going to go next?
Yeah.
Once they're off of the racism and the Civil War, then they're going to go after religion. I mean,
Probably.
that's what's coming.
Yeah, or Braveheart, with isn't that about the Revolutionary War?
Exactly. But you've got. I put something up on Politics today, and I said, "Is this going to be the next to go?" And I ran a poster of Blazing Saddles. Is this going to be the next to go?
Well, I'm going to make a prediction. I was telling somebody at work the other day, and I've made this prediction before, and it may happen in our lifetimes, but it's going to happen at some point. The left is going to, I hope this never happens, but I think the left will at some point go after the Andy Griffith Show. Because it's, it's about a southern town. It's all white people in it. It's about good morality. It has some religion in it, some spiritual nature stuff in it. I mean, they will go after that at some point. I mean, they went after the Dukes of Hazzard for a Confederate flag on the top of a car.
That's right. And they removed it from the channel it was playing on. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't find it anywhere on TV now.
You no longer can see it on television.
Yeah.
Oh, everything. But see, it will be very, they'll pick and choose in what they will let us see.
Right.
You see, this is the most annoying thing, because it's basically, you can watch this, but you can't watch that. It's like HBO came out and said about Gone with the Wind. Well, we're, the people who subscribe to our channel, we're very sympathetic to the way they feel. Okay, what about us? We don't feel that way. We don't matter? How do you know how many of us are out here? You know? No, it doesn't make any difference. It's the liberal people that they want to cater to. And so the rest of us, you have no choice. We're taking Gone with the Wind away. You can't watch it. We're going to take it away from you.
Yeah.
If it's the Andy Griffith Show, I'm sorry. You can't watch that. If it's a religious show, look at what they did to Last Man Standing. Fox took that off the air, but then it came back. Or
Right.
ABC took it off the air, and Fox picked it up.
Right.
So it's because they didn't like what he was saying. They didn't like the message he was giving to people like you and me and the listeners out
And it's
there.
not like that show was like, it was overly religious. It just had some different stuff thrown in, sprinkled in at different times.
Right.
Yeah.
And it had a relationship between Tim Allen and a black character.
Yeah.
As friends. They can't have that.
Well, why don't they take that show that Deborah Messing's on, where she's always calling everybody else racist, but I don't think they've ever had a major character on that show other than a Caucasian. Why don't they take that off the air?
Yeah. I don't know.
Or,
I don't know.
the Jeffersons had Tom Willis was white, so they're going to have to take that off the air, too.
Oh, yeah. That's going to have to go. I mean, it is just, we have to do something. We have to, as a group of people, we have to stand up and say, enough is enough, people. We live here, too.
Yeah.
This is our country as well. So deal with it. We're going to have our shows. If you don't want to watch them, don't watch them. We don't watch yours.
Yeah,
I choose not to watch the garbage on cable. I'm not going to watch it.
Yeah.
That's my choice. But you know what? If they want to watch it, have at it.
Yeah.
But they can't be that way, you see. It's all about control.
Exactly.
The whole thing is about control and how easy are we to control. And it looks to me like I'm really shocked because it looks to me like a lot of people are buckling under. When you have a white woman on one of the streets, I don't know where it was, I don't know whether it was here or somewhere, and somebody says to her, get down on your knees in front of me and apologize for your white privilege. And she did it.
Wow.
She did it. When this is beginning to happen, we're done.
Yeah.
And I'm not buying into that. And I think there's millions of us that are not buying into that.
And you're listening to the PTZ, the Political Twilight Zone, and that was the first half of our June podcast. Stay tuned for the second half, which will be posted in a couple of days, where Morgan and I talk about the 2020 election and Sharon Stone's tips for surviving riots. Riveting stuff coming up on the PTZ.